So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to do the integer card game, and this is a game I made up to do with my child. I'm sure other people have thought of how to do this. Um, it's not necessarily, something that isn't already out there, but I am going to do it on film for you. Okay, so after you have taught your child the rules or did it on a number line, use money, whatever way you decide to teach your child how to do operations with integers, then it's a good idea to do this game. Okay, so you can use broken decks of cards. Okay, I don't know about you, but in my house we lose cards to decks like crazy, and I keep them for little craft projects like this. You can use multiple decks. The more people you have, the more decks you want to use. Okay, the more kids are playing, or if you're doing this in a classroom, yes, you need like 5 or 6 decks. Okay, so first thing you need to do is separate the deck into numbered cards and face cards. Now, let me see if I can find one. An ace is a 1, okay? So it goes in the numbered card deck, okay? So make sure all the students, or if your child or whatever understands that the ace means 1, okay? All right, and here are my face cards. So for this first variation of the game, we're only going to use queens and jacks, okay? We add in kings later, and then the jokers later, and as we add parts to our game, okay? So at first what I do is I'm going to keep my decks separate, okay? I have a number deck and an operations deck. And then we have to go over some of the rules. Okay, the black cards. So let me draw some cards here. Okay. So this is a black card. It could be a spade or a club. Okay, they are positive cards. And then I make the red cards my negative cards. Does not matter. You can flip-flop that if you want, okay? And if you go on my website, I have all these slides in a note packet that you can download and use whenever you actually play. The other thing we need to know is that queens mean to add, jacks mean to subtract. Okay, that's going to change in the different variations as we add more order of operations in. Okay, but first we're just going to do our adding and subtracting. So I'm going to shuffle up my cards and I'm going to pick some. The first card I pick is a number card. You always start off with a number card. I have a black 7, so that is a positive 7. So let me get to where I'm going to write this. Alright, so we're going to do a little order of operations, but we're not going to be doing a whole lot, just adding and subtracting for this first step. Once they master that, you add more rules to the game. Okay, so just my adding and subtracting part of order of operations right now. So like I said, I got a black 7, which means positive 7. Next thing I do is I got to pick an operation. Okay, so I picked an operation, and it's a jack, which means I am going to add. Or I'm going to subtract, I'm sorry. I'm going to subtract, okay? My next number card is a 3, so that's a negative 3. So I'm going to have 7 minus a negative 3. I have that double negative going on, 2 negatives beside each other. Doesn't make any sense. Got to have a number in between my operations. So it becomes positive, and it's 7 plus 3, which is a 10. All right, so let's draw some other numbers. All right. Red 4, so that's negative 4, and now an operation card. It's queen, so that's add. So I have negative 4 plus, what's it going to be? Positive 10. Okay, so this now shows them, it makes it arrange in different ways. Okay, sometimes when I'm writing worksheets, I'm up on the dry erase board with my daughter trying to figure out different ways I can show her how to do this stuff. I can't come up with all the different ways randomly. That's what I like about a deck of cards. It's always random. It's awesome. And as we go on, they get harder and harder, and you wouldn't even think that out of a deck of cards, but it's awesome. So if I take negative 4 plus 10, I'm going to get a positive 6 because the bigger number, absolute value of the bigger number is 10, which is positive 6. Okay. Okay, so we don't want to stay that simple, right? So we're going to keep adding more and more rules, okay? So what I suggest is when you're playing this game with your child, you do a few things. Number one, every single time they're drawing cards, have them write it. One of the things I see that students do very wrong whenever they start doing word problems with their integers is they don't know how to write it succinctly, getting their negatives in the right place, their operations in the right place. Start doing that now. Draw your cards, have your student write it down properly, and then solve, okay? Sometimes I'll invite kids over, I only have one kid, and we will have speed races with this, okay? So write it down, do it. It can be a homeschool party game as well. But always have them write down so that you know that they're understanding what they're interpreting from the cards, okay, as far as operations versus numbers. So keep having an operation deck and a number deck, two separate decks to this game, and we'll keep adding some rules. First, let's go over the rules. It's the same as the beginning. The black cards are number cards. These are a number card deck, okay? The black cards mean positive, and the red cards mean negative, and the ace, okay, that's a 1. Okay, those are our rules for that deck. You should have a second deck. Keep these separate from the other ones, and this should be your king, queen, jack, okay? So kings mean to multiply, queens mean to add, and jacks mean to subtract, okay? So I have 2 decks. So what I usually do is I have my daughter pick one from each deck, and we build an equation. This way it's random. It's fun because you feel like you're playing a game, and then whoever can come up with the correct answer first is the winner. All right. All right, my 2 decks. Got my numbers in one deck. Got my operations in the other deck. Just quick review. Remember everything that I said in the last slide about the rules. You may even want to print it out. I usually put this on my website, homeschoolmathmom.com. I'll have a printout of this too. Okay, so what I usually do is I pick a certain amount of cards she's going to pick. Okay. In this case, we're going to pick 3 number cards and 2 operation cards, okay? So my first one is a black 8, okay? So black means positive, so I have a positive 8. I picked the king, which means multiplication. I picked a red 5, which means negative 5. I picked a jack, which means subtraction. And a 3, that's red, so it's negative 3. And if you look over to the left of me, you'll see that equation written out, okay? All right, so now we apply our order of operations, okay? So this is a great way to do them. You won't get fractions and everything, but it's great to hone in on the basic mechanics skill, okay? So first thing, look for parentheses. I have no parentheses yet. We can even add in some exponents in this, but later, okay? Not right now. So there's no parentheses, no exponents, okay? And then I have negative 5 minus a negative 3. So no parentheses, no exponents, but I do have that multiplication, so I'm going to do that multiplication first. So positive 8 times a negative 5 is a negative 40, and then you have to remember to teach them the double negative rule. I have 2 negatives, so that actually is negative 40 plus 3, okay, which will give me negative 37. All right, let's do another one. All right, so let's do it again. Make sure we understand how, and then I'm going to add more rules to it, okay? So first thing I'm going to pick is a black 7, a red queen, so I'm going to add, a black 3, so that's a positive 3, a king, so I'm going to multiply, and a red 4, so that's a minus 4 or a negative 4. So as you can see to the left over there, oh sorry, over there, sorry, forgot I was mirrored. you will see I typed out those cards, okay? So the first thing I have to do is my multiplication, okay? Because it comes first in my order of operations, and I have a positive and a negative, so that's going to give me a negative answer of negative 12. Okay, the next thing I need to do is take 7 plus a negative 12. Well, the biggest absolute value is that 12, that negative 12, so I know my answer is going to be negative because its sign is negative. They have opposite signs, so I subtract the two numbers, and it's going to be a negative 5. All right, so now let's add in parentheses, and then our last step will be to add in exponents. So after your student or your learner has mastered the last variation of the game, we can make it a little bit harder, okay? And the way I do that is still black. No, black cards are positive, red cards are negative, okay? And you can change this around as much as you want. I make my kings, okay, my parentheses, all right? So I need to get 2 of these cards. If you're using broken decks, I suggest you take some of the kings out of another broken deck and make sure you have about 6 to 8. I'm going to do a 4 this time, but my recommendation when I do it with my daughter is I use 6 to 8 kings, okay? So you can even make this queens if you have 6 to 8 queens. All right, and then queens are now the red ones, okay, mean to subtract, and the black ones mean to add. And then our jacks are now red, mean to divide, and black mean to multiply. All right, so I'm going to shuffle up this deck, and we'll play one. All right, so I always start off with my number deck. We still have 2 decks, okay? So I draw from one, then the other, then one, and the other. The only thing that kind of changes is if you pull a parentheses, you got to keep going until you pull the last parentheses. So that's what I'm going to do here. This is random. I do the numbers on the left afterwards. Okay, so my first one is a red 6, so that's negative 6, okay? My next card, ooh, look at that, a black queen, that means add. And we're going to add it to a red 3, so a negative 3. Getting a lot of negative numbers in this one. Oh, look, I got a king. Okay, so I can't stop building my equation until I get another king, okay? So I have my first king, all right? Now my first number after the king is going to be a positive 6, okay, because it's black. And we're going to add it, okay? Luckily, I didn't get another parenthesis or my equation would be done. Okay, so we have to keep playing until we get the next one. Oh, look. Oh, I was supposed to pick a number, so my parentheses next. Okay, so a black 8, which means a positive 8, and then my parenthesis. So I am done my equation. I should have it typed out on the left for you. Okay, and let's go ahead and solve. So the first thing I have to do is parentheses. So in parentheses, I have a black 6, a queen, black queen, and a black 8. So it's positive 6 plus a positive 8. Okay, so that's going to give me 14. Okay, I'm just adding those 2 together. Now my parentheses done. Okay, if I've written it on the left, I probably put that negative 3 in parentheses so it doesn't run into my other stuff. Okay, but I don't have to, that's not the kind of parentheses that I have to do during the parentheses stage, because that parenthesis is just denoting that that negative doesn't run into that positive sign and looks sloppy. Okay, so that leaves me with multiplication, because I got a negative 3 and I have a 14 and they're in multiplication. Okay, the negative 3 is on the outside of the parenthesis with no operation sign in between, so we can assume it's multiplication. If I multiply 14 times 3, I'm going to get 42, okay? And I know it's negative because I have a negative and a positive sign. All right, so I'm done with that part of my equation. I got negative 42. So this is negative 42. All right, so I have a negative 6, and that's plus a negative 42. Same signs in adding and subtracting. That means I add my numbers. If I add my numbers, I get 48. They're both negative, so my answer is going to be a negative 48. Awesome. So now let's add another rule to it. After your child has accomplished this step, you can add yet another rule, and this is going to use our jokers. So go ahead and get your jokers out, and we will do another one. Okay, so now it's a little bit more complicated. We've added some squares in there, but it's still just as fun. So let's go over how it's going to go now. All right, so black, still positive numbers, red, still black numbers, kings still mean parentheses, queens, black queens mean to add, and red queens mean to subtract. Black jacks mean to multiply, and red jacks mean to divide. Jokers mean squared now. Okay, so this game is more for pre-algebra students, so we're not going to do anything besides squared. I haven't made a variation for like an Algebra 1, Algebra 2 student, but if you can figure out one, please put it in the comments. That would be awesome. Okay, now there are a few extra rules because of this added square. If I pick a joker, okay, so if I pick that a number is squared, so the joker will apply to the number selected before, okay? And that joker will mean that the first number, the one previous to it, is squared, all right? That means you have to pick another operation card. So if you pick a joker, you have to pick another operation card before you pick a number card. And I'll do one, and I stacked the deck this time just to make sure it turned out right. All right, the next thing you need to remember is that it's the entire card before that is squared. So if that's a negative card, if it's a red card, that means the whole thing is squared, okay? It's a negative number being squared. If it is a black card, it's a positive number being squared, and there's different rules we got to follow with each one in our integers. So it really gives them practice on that. So this first one I'm going to do a negative example, and the next one I'll do a positive example of this so that you can see how it works out. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pick some cards here. Let me shuffle up a little bit. All right, let's get started. Okay, so the first card still starts with number card. I got a -3. Next card is an operation card, and look, I got that square. So that means the entire -3 is squared. Because I picked an operation card that was squared, I have to pick another operation card, and this is telling me I'm going to multiply. My number card is a -4. Okay, and my operation card is a king. So this means that I have a parenthesis. So now I have to keep picking until I get the next parentheses, till I get a king again. All right, so back to my number card, and I got a 10, and it's positive. Okay. Ooh, look, I got another king already. No operations inside of there. I'm done because I got that next one. And this is important because your learners pre-algebra, they're getting ready for algebra. They need to look at multiplication in different ways. So in this one, these parentheses are going to denote multiplication because there's no operation going on inside the parenthesis. So now they are working with different symbols for multiplication. We're doing exponents. They're getting so much work out of this, and you don't have to make up a whole lesson set worth of questions, okay? So on the left, will be this problem typed out. So let's do the first thing. There is no parentheses with operations, so don't have to do parentheses first. Remember, that only means if there's operation inside the parenthesis, not when the parenthesis means multiplication. So the next thing is exponents. Now we have to remember there are two different ways to look at this, and one way is you have to remember whatever that card is, you put inside a parenthesis. Okay, so ours was a -3 because it was red. Okay, so it's -3 times -3, and I worked out the actual operation for you. So negative and a negative make a positive. It's going to be a +9. All right, so now I'm going to stack my cards so I see what I have left. So now I have a 9, okay, times a -4, and that's a +9, parenthesis, +10 parenthesis, which means multiplication. Okay, so all I have is multiplication left. So I'm just going to work left to right. All right, so 9 times a -4 is going to give me a -36 times a 10, because parentheses also mean multiplication. I get a -360. All right, let's do another one of these with a positive in it. All right, so let's do another one. Okay, I've added a couple more things that you need to see in the game for this one. Okay, so let's start drawing. My first card is a +10. My next card is squared, so I have to pick another operation card, and it is parentheses. All right, so now I got to keep drawing cards, keep building my equation until I get my last parenthesis, and sometimes these can go on a while. So my next thing is a -4. Okay, red queen, that means add. Okay, so I got a -4 minus a -4. Okay, oh, I picked that too soon, I'm sorry. So -4 plus a -4, not minus, sorry. I'm getting a little bit off the rails. My next thing is a positive queen. Okay, so that is going to be another plus. Still haven't found a king, so I can't stop yet. Now there's my -3. I have 2 rows of cards. This is a long one. Okay, black jack means multiply. Black 7 means +7. Finally got my parentheses so I can end. Finally, this is a big, big, long one. But sometimes that happens inside parentheses. We have a lot of things going on. So in this one, I don't have it written down right now. It should be on the left for you, but it's not on the left for me right yet. So I'm going to be writing a little bit. Okay, so I need to attack that parentheses first because it has operation in it. It's the first thing I do. So when I look inside my parentheses, I see I have multiplication. I got to take care of that multiplication first. So I have a -3 multiplied by +7, and when I do that math, I should get a -21. Okay, so that's the first thing I do is that multiplication inside of my parentheses, and I'm going to gather up my cards there so I know. All right, so now inside my parentheses, I have a -4, and then I have a plus a -4, and then I have plus what I just got. Okay, so it's all addition. I'm just going to work left to right. So -4 plus a -4 is a -8. Okay, so let's go ahead and gather up those cards so I know what I'm doing. So I have a -8 plus a -21. Okay, so signs are the same. I'm going to add, I'm going to get 29, and because they're both negative, it's a -29. All right, my parenthesis is now done. I do have to keep the parentheses because they denote multiplication in this case. All right, so we always got to look and interpret what's going on. Okay, so on the outside I have 10 squared multiplied by -29. Okay, now the next thing in order of operation, now that I'm done that big long parenthesis, is to do my exponent. So 10 squared is going to be 100. All right, and I'm going to have 100 multiplied, okay, because the sign in between was the parenthesis, which also means multiplication. So I can't say 100 minus 29, then the sign right after the squared was a parenthesis, no number, no operation besides the parenthesis, so it's multiplication. So if I multiply those two, I'm going to get a -2,900. Look, these numbers get pretty big. You might have thought, how does a deck of cards really give my child the challenge they need? It does. It works. It's fun. It's a lot more fun than doing worksheets. Go ahead and try it. Add it into your game night maybe and do it with multiple people. If you do that, I suggest multiple decks, okay? All right, so let me know what changes you make to the game, because obviously there needs to be some changes. If you're going to add in fractions and whatnot, you need to be able to do some things. So if you make changes to the game in order to show multiplication, show fractions or decimals or whatever you do, please put it in the comments below so that other people can do it too. Also, subscribe to this YouTube channel. I put up videos all the time, and I would really appreciate you subscribing. Also, check out my website. I have a website called homeschoolmathmom.com. Subscribe to my newsletter. I put out a blog a week or so, and I just talk about how I went from a college instructor to homeschooling my daughter in pre-algebra, and that journey of how I taught her things and how I unschooled. It's really weird coming from a traditional school background and then doing unschooling with my daughter. I do a more classical method though on OutSchool. We do still do a lot of discovery learning in that class because I like discovery learning, being an engineer and all. If you follow the link in the comments below, you will be directed to my profile on OutSchool. It's online live learning. So if you'd like me to teach your children signed integers, sign up for my hands-on fun with rational numbers in my pre-algebra section, and I would be glad to teach your children, and they will also get the rules to this game when we get there. All right, y'all take care, and I hope you enjoy doing math.